It's time to roll the credits with Chris and Wayne. Good evening and welcome back to Roll the Credits with Chris and Wayne. I'm Wayne Pyle.
And I'm Chris Ty, and we are the official video podcast of the Hunter Mountain Film Festival, which will be online this year from October 22nd through the 24th. For more info, please visit huntermountainfilmfestival.com.
Now, before we introduce our very talented special guest today, Chris, I just wanted to say that it's been a year. And by that, I mean, it's been an actual year, but also it's been a year. And I've been thinking a lot. Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about these pandemic times and everything going on in the film and TV industry. And as I look back at the films and television shows that I've had the opportunity to work on, I just started getting very moved and feeling very grateful about all of the great people that I've gotten to work with. So many talented people, cast, crew, producers, and also the many directors that I've gotten to work with in my acting career so far. Directors like Bruce Beresford, Liza Johnson, Liz Garcia, Paul Salette, Christine Guy on Blacklist, Alex Pillai, Katie Keene, Aram Rappaport on the Green Veil miniseries, Adam McKay and Andriy Sparek on Succession, and most recently, John Keyes on Banshee, that project that I told you about with Antonio Banderas, and on and on. And I was just getting like, I'm so grateful that I've gotten to work with and I've gotten to learn so much from these very talented people. So having said that, Chris, I was wondering if you have a story about any of the many talented directors you've worked with.
Well, Wayne, I don't have a list like that, but I have one big name that I got to work with. You know, I was working on this project on a Monday. I get a call from a casting director who I'd auditioned for in the past, and he says, "Are you available the rest of the week?" I believe I am. I have to check. And he goes, "It's working with Joel Schumacher for the week." I said, "Yeah, I'm available."
Right, yeah.
It was a project that he was producing for ID Discovery Channel. It was just a little hobby project of his. And he wasn't actually directing, he was producing it, but he was just there on set with this small group of people. It was actually directed by a guy named Mark Marabella. I actually, in downtime, sitting in an office, just he and I, in my mind, I'm going, I can't believe I'm talking to Joel Schumacher like this. And he, I had my iPad, I had only one movie I ever downloaded. It was Phantom of the Opera. And I'm not even a musical guy,
right?
But I love that movie, and he was very, very open and warm, and I just said, I don't like musicals, but the one movie I got is yours. It's quite coincidental, and I said the problem with this is if I play it, the music sticks in my head for a week, and he goes. Yeah, well, just imagine trying to direct that thing. Okay. Anyway, that's my one brush with fame like that with directors. It was quite fun.
That's great. Thanks so much for sharing that, Chris. I really appreciate it. Well, our stories and our patter here at the beginning always kind of ties into our special guest. And our special guest today is a director and producer who has inspired many through her work on TV and web series, music videos, short films, feature films.
And she's also produced and directed numerous commercials for various Fortune 500 companies. She's an alumna and current mentor of the Multicultural Advertising Internship Program, or MAIP, MAIP, for short, and is a member of the New York Women in Film and Television, or NYWIFT.
She also teaches filmmaking to the next generation of filmmakers as an adjunct professor at the New York City College of Technology, and she's currently the head of development at HOBO Films in New York City.
We are very pleased to welcome our very talented special guest, Tiffany Jackman, to Roll the Credits with Chris and Wayne. Welcome, Tiffany.
Hi, guys. Thank you for having me.
Hi, Tiffany.
Thanks
Our pleasure.
So much. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us tonight. We're glad that you had a chance to talk with us. Tiffany, in your bio, it says that you started out writing skits and plays that led to your interest in filmmaking. I'm always curious about this. How did you know that that's what you wanted to do? Like you wanted to start making films, and was there like a specific moment you remember where you knew you wanted to do this, to direct and produce?
Yes, so I would say I've always been a storyteller. And so even before I started writing, I'm the oldest of four girls, and I would take my dolls and turn them into TV shows. They would literally come on at the same time every day at like 3:30, and I would force my little sisters to sit down and watch, and I would put on a show, right? And all the dolls had the same characters that were different than what their regular names were. Yeah, I was an interesting child. And so
that is so great. That is so great.
But in terms of like write, and then I started, once I learned how to write, I would write little stories. And I went to this small Christian private school in down in Atlanta. And what we did every week, one class had to perform a play for the rest of the school. Mm-hmm. And I started out by writing the play for my class, and then other classes really liked our play, and then I was recruited to write the plays for other classes as well at a really young age.
Wow.
And then how that evolved to filmmaking was playwriting was really stressful for me as a kid, because like you can never have things perfect, right? Mm-hmm, somebody will forget their lines, a piece of the set will fall down, you know. And so then somebody just suggested to me at one point, like, why don't you just film it? Because once you get it right, it's going to stay that way. And I was like, that's brilliant. So I actually, with the help of my parents, I did save up for half of it. I bought my first camera when I was 12 years old, and I've been making little movies ever since.
Do you remember what camera it was? Do you remember the type?
I remember it was a Sony. And it was, I can't remember the actual name of it. It's still at my parents' house.
Oh,
but
great.
It was a Sony, and it was a mini DV camera.
Nice.
Yeah. I just can't remember like the brand or anything.
Sure. I'm always curious about the, the older technology and what people used when they
It wasn't a film camera. That was a little bit before my time. But
sure. Yeah.
Tiffany, you are an example of what it is to have a good imagination, because I can still remember when I was a kid having a G.I. Joe, and all I could do was pull the arm off and just all right, well, that's done. I'm curious.
I actually did the same thing, Tiffany. Actually, I had like little stuffed animals, and we would record them on an old tape recorder, where you push the button, and we would make voices. We would do all the voices, and then force our parents to listen to them. So.
Oh yeah, parents were captive audience was my thing.
Yeah.
It goes to show you, what you do young like that pretells what you will become. Eventually.
Exactly. And I'm very thankful to my parents who just like kind of let us do what we wanted to do. I come from an immigrant family, and there's a definite thing about immigrant parents wanting you to be a lawyer or a doctor or something. But to my parents, they were just like, listen, do what you want to do, but you've got to go to college, you got to study, and you got to try to be the best at it. But they didn't like say you couldn't be in the arts.
Great.
So I'm very thankful to that.
Great.
Well, I'm curious, as a director, what qualities do you look for in actors who you want to work with?
Well, the first thing is don't be a jerk.
Yes. Thank you.
Don't be a jerk. And that's me as a director and as a producer.
Sorry, Wayne, that disqualifies you and I.
Well, yeah.
Because you have to be. If I hear that, even if it's a good actor, but I hear that they have a bad reputation of being mean to the crew or something like that, I won't work with them. And so that's the first thing. And then the other thing is when I'm actually like casting someone, it's do they fit the character, or can they play the character well, and then can they take direction? So in casting, I will purposely give them some feedback to just see, can you listen, can you try this a different way, are you flexible, so that's basically what I look for.
Very nice.
Yeah, that's actually good advice for any actor, I would think. They should behave that way on set, and obviously not be a jerk. I mean, if you fit the part, you fit the part, but yeah, I mean, so many times you hear of stories about actors and their behavior, and it seems just like it should be common knowledge to anyone. Just, be nice.
Be nice, because
yes,
you have to be with these people for 12, 16 hours a day. You don't want to be with someone who's not nice to be around.
Exactly.
And I don't care who it is. I will fire a diva.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think it's important. I think it's, I always love the community aspect of filmmaking. And if somebody's in your community making a mess, it makes everybody's life harder. You're trying so hard. I always say it's a miracle that any film gets made anyway. Like, no matter what size budget, it's a miracle. And we want to keep finding the ways to keep that miracle going without, having to throw not being nice in the mix, I think. So
exactly.
Yeah. Now you're also a producer, and producer, I think, is a word that people hear a lot, but I'm not sure that anyone knows exactly what it means.
Well,
so what exactly is a producer, and how do you do, like, what do you do when you're producing?
Yeah. So, a producer, I like to say, not to, I know it's something that's close to my heart, and I don't want to toot anybody's horn, but the producer basically is the person that makes everything happen, So, and I explain this to the students I teach as well. The producer gets two things when they're getting ready to start a project. They get the script and they get the budget. And the producer's job is to do all the things, hire all the people, everything that needs to get done so that it can get on screen, So, and you have to find it, so one of the first things you do is you get the script and you analyze it. You see how many actors you need, where it takes place, what kind of film is it? Because the director you hire you're not going to hire the director that does horror films if your film is a romantic comedy, right?
Right.
So, you have to find the right crew for it. Find the right makeup artist. If it is a horror movie and somebody needs to look like they got an axe in their neck, you need to find that right makeup artist to do that, right?
Yes.
So the producer is that person that kind of makes everything happen. And they have to sit with it from the time it's a script, even through the edit process. And you got to do all of that stuff within budget, which is not the easy part. That's usually the most challenging part, because a lot of people write scripts where, it's like a steak budget.
Right.
A steak film with a bologna budget.
Right, exactly.
Try to bring it all together. And it's also about keeping things running smoothly on set too, making sure everybody's, content, people are where they need to be, things run on schedule, you don't go over budget, you make sure you're following all the laws. There's a lot of moving parts that you have to do as a producer.
And do you
Hopefully
have,
it sounds like,
go ahead,
I'm sorry, Wayne. I was going to say, it sounds like you're a juggler, basically.
Definitely.
A professional
Not
juggler.
only am I a juggler, but I'm usually that's all for one particular project. I'm usually juggling multiple projects. There are usually multiple films in different stages of development that I'm working on.
Yes, I've noticed that with other producer friends that I've talked to. I'm like, I don't know how they do it. Do you have a favorite part of producing? Like, is there a part that you enjoy more than others? Is there something?
Well, there's the part that never gets old is when you see it on the screen. So especially like my commercials, I see those more often. Right. I would be at Applebee's with my friends, and then an Advil commercial will come on screen.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm like, I did that one. That never gets old. Yeah. Or the part where when you are sitting there watching other people watch your film, and they laugh when you wanted them to laugh.
Yeah, that's a great feeling. Yeah,
you get it. So that's my favorite part. I also love being on set, although that part can also be kind of exhausting when they want to do the early call times and stuff. But I love being in the weeds as things are happening. Okay, so I think those are my two favorite parts.
Well, with all that juggling, I'm curious, and as head of development of HOBO Films, what does a typical workday look like for you?
There is no typical work
right.
work
right.
day.
Yeah. What is typical, right?
It really all depends on what is the project that's going on at that time. So it could be, kind of like a paperwork day where I'm just looking over scripts, and, a lot of times I'm editing the script too, or, making sure, because there'll be other people writing the script. But especially if it's a series, you have to make sure, even if 3 people are writing it, if you're the head of development or the showrunner, you have to make sure oh, that character wouldn't say it that way. You have to know it you have to know it like if it's your child, right? And other people are babysitting your child, but you got to make sure everything stays in line. So could be something as scripting, budgeting, I could be location scouting, whatever. It just depends on what project is kind of being attended to at that moment.
I see. On your website, I was curious about NYC Movie Makers. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. Okay, so that's like that's a fun thing that me and my boyfriend did a little bit around the time when I was leaving my corporate job and going on my own. So it's a fun thing that we do for tourists. It's kind of died down now with the pandemic.
Right.
But the thing is that we would take tourists, or some locals too, on a tour of Central Park. We'd film them as we're doing it. And then in 2 days, take that and turn it into a music video. So they have their own little New York video when they go back. And we've met people from all over the world, people from Germany, Australia, people from all over the US as well. So they sign up through Airbnb experiences.
Oh,
and then, and it would be like a 2-hour tour. That's different than just riding the big double-decker bus.
That's a great idea. How sweet.
I want to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I really want to do that.
We should go down, Chris. We'll have a special episode where we do it and walk around.
I would love that. And they get to pick the song too. No. And so we asked them like, hey, why are you coming to New York? And what song represents you guys at that moment? And so we've done ones where it's like, it's their first wedding anniversary, so we do like a more romantic video to their wedding song. Then other ones where it's just fun, like this one guy wanted to be a rapper, and so we dressed him up like an obscene rapper. I gave him my fur vest and a big chain. So it's a lot of fun,
That sounds really fun. That's really great.
Wow.
Thank you for telling us about that.
For someone who does all these things, and obviously you have a personal life, but I'm just thinking, you produce, you direct, teach. How do you find the life balance and get everything accomplished too?
Well, a lot of times I love film, so it's a part of my life anyway. And a lot of times I try to integrate my life into the things I'm doing with film. So one of the tricks I do, I won't say this is a trick, a lot of producers do this, but like, let's say I have to fly to London for a shoot, right? And the shoot is 5 days and the shoot ends on a Friday. I'll stay till the Monday. That part would be on my own dime. I stay till the Monday so I still can like be a tourist as well, and it's cool because the inbound flight and the outbound flight are still paid for by whatever project.
Right.
But, I get to enjoy it as well. The other cool thing is that my boyfriend is in the industry as well, which is great because we work together a lot because I don't know if I'd see him that much.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So that's helpful as well. And, you just have to make the time. You just have to find little moments to squeeze it in. But even if I was to try to pretend like I was turning off film, I can't do it. Like if I was going away somewhere and I saw something pretty, I would miss my camera. So it's just part of who I am at this point.
Oh, that's great.
I get that.
Yeah, I completely get that too. Tiffany, we always love to ask our guests if they have any funny or moving stories from a time on set. Is there something that comes to mind that you could share with us, like something funny or interesting that happened on set, like some strange occurrence or fun occurrence that happened?
I know a producer term we always say is that we're always putting out fires, right? That's the term. There was literally a fire on set at one point. It wasn't on our set, but we were shooting, and then there was a field behind where we were shooting. This was like the second feature I was working on, and I think some kids were playing back there and set a bush on fire. And of course, because we're the producers, we had fire extinguishers on set, and so we ran and put out the fire. And I was like, producers.
Oh man! So where were you when I was 10 years old and my friend set a field on fire and I had to we got in so much trouble?
I was probably thinking up a film, I guess.
It's funny that you said that, Wayne, because when I was about 10 years old, about 7 or 8 of us were having a picnic in the field behind us, and somebody was playing with matches, and we burned down about 80 acres.
Oh man!
You had a wildfire. Oh my
Wow.
gosh!
Yeah,
Wow.
We avoided responsibility. I guess all these years later, I can admit to it. I was only a kid. I didn't.
Right.
I was just there. Yeah, that was interesting. So we have a lot in common. Oh my gosh. Well, I was just wondering, well, is there anything else you'd like to share with us today?
Let's see. Well, I did want to talk to you guys about some of the projects that I'm working on.
Yes.
Yeah, we'd love to. Yeah, we'd love to hear about any projects that you're currently working on.
Yeah, there are a few that are in different stages of development. We have a TV pilot at HOBO Films called The System that I'm working on, and it's not online at the moment because we're selling it, but it's about a group of teenagers that clash with overzealous police as the drug war seeps into the suburbs, and it really focuses on how like the police target kids, minority kids, for the same things that Caucasian kids do.
Yep.
And why is that? And it takes place in the suburbs, not the traditional, police versus kids of color in the hood, because not all those kids live in the hood.
Right.
I didn't grow up in the hood, but I still, know about friends having experiences with police just because their dad was a doctor and has a nice car, but why is a black kid driving around in a nice car?
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
So, that's one thing that we're working on. The other one is a documentary called Crawford, the Man the South Forgot. And it's about a young African-American woman who journeys from the North, where she lives, down to the South to find out what happened to her great-great-grandfather, what tragically happened to him, actually. He was actually, this took place in 1916. Well, her great-great-grandfather's time was in 1916, and he was actually the richest black man in South Carolina. And he met an untimely fate, and his family ended up having to spread out all throughout the country. And she wanted to go down and find out what happened to him. So that was a documentary.
And
that
that's
was
a
about
documentary.
20, Yes, that's a documentary. It was about 20 years in the making.
Wow.
Howard Bowler, who runs HOBO Films, he started the film back in like 2000, 2002. And when a lot of the descendants of Anthony Crawford were still alive. And then it kind of like sat for a few years, and then he gave me this footage and he was like, can you make something of it?
Wow.
And so I edited that footage.
Oh, that's great.
Wow.
Yeah, and just I wanted to finish it up, and it became a real labor of love. It took about a year, and then I went down to South Carolina to that same town to grab some more footage, and put it all together, and it's doing pretty well.
Great. Did you do a screening for the people in the area where you went?
Not yet, because of Corona.
Oh, right. Well, that's part of my question is, now with these new projects, how has the pandemic sort of affected how you produce a film or a TV show?
It's greatly affected it. I haven't really shot a feature since the pandemic because we just couldn't really gather, a large crew, not like we would usually do. I shot some smaller stuff, but it's really affected that because also, you have to take a lot more precautions. You got to have like a COVID, what we call like the COVID nurse on set, checking temperatures.
I mean,
a lot.
It's been a lot, and a lot of the budgets have been taken up with the COVID protocols.
Exactly.
We know that for sure from our own work as well. And I was able to work a little bit, but it's so strange not to be able to hug everybody and and get close. Yeah. And you're wearing the mask.
I'm a hugger.
Yeah. We like to say hi and hey, and a long time no see. And then, the masks, and then you take them off, and then you've got like lines on your face, and you're trying to shoot. And when do you put it back on? When do you take it off? It's so
exactly. So even like the way that I would order craft services is totally different. I'm used to doing everything buffet style, and now everybody just has to get in like a little baggie and stuff. So it's complicated. I mean, this is something I tell my students. The important thing about being in this industry is to have multiple skills. And so even though I wasn't able to shoot, I still write, I can still edit. Editing is what saved me during the height of the pandemic because, nothing was filming, but I could do that in my pajamas at home. And so in this industry, you have to be able to wear many hats.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that completely. I find, and I tell my students this as well, is that I find that work of any kind, especially creative work, begets more work. That's my thing that I say. And because you're engaged in at least thinking about it. If you're not shooting a film, you can think about film itself or about television or writing your own projects, that kind of thing. Is there any other advice that you would have for young people besides having many other ways of making a living as a filmmaker?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest advice is to just do it. This generation of filmmakers, this YouTube generation, has the best opportunities than from any other generation of the past because DSLR camera or mirrorless camera is not that hard to get your hands on. You can shoot things yourself. You can edit things yourself. There are free edit softwares that you can use. And with YouTube and, all these things, you can self-distribute. So there's really nothing stopping you from just going out there and making your film. The flip side of that is because it's very easy to make a film, you got to make sure yours is good.
That's right.
Because it's a very oversaturated market, but there's nothing stopping you. You don't need the green light, quote unquote, anymore, like the industry used to be. So just go out there and do it is my biggest advice.
Great advice.
I've heard that before. Just do it.
Just do it.
Great
Exactly.
It's like a commercial.
Sounds like hey, I grew up in commercials. So.
Yes. And creating your own content. I mean, there seems to be a big push for that. And we do have so much out there. What are your thoughts on how somebody could maybe stand out from the crowd since there is so much content happening right now?
Well, if you try to tell a really good story, it's going to resonate with people.
Yeah.
It is hard to stand out, but you just try to tell a good story and try to just do it well, shoot it well, have good lighting, have good actors, that's the way you're going to stand out. At least to me, like if I see a bunch of things on YouTube, but then I look at something, I'm like, oh, that's really pretty. At least it would catch my attention for a few more minutes. You got to hook me with the story though. Otherwise I will turn it off.
Right.
But,
right.
just try to make it visually appealing and try to have a really good story that people can relate to, and you'll be fine.
Great. Do you have an opinion about, I'm sorry, Wayne.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Do you have an opinion about whether you should target your project for the film festival circuit or just go straight to online?
I would say try to do the film festival circuit because you never know who you can meet at those festivals.
Right.
Especially like the festivals that that people would be there, right? So you never know who you can meet in terms of fellow crew members, or there might be some people that are from networks there. I mean, our first film, the one that made it onto HBO, it was through the film festival route that we were able to make those connections. Yeah. So especially if you are someone who doesn't already have connections in the industry when you're coming up, the film festival route is what's going to get you there. And it's also what's going to get you that credibility too, because, this film has been in this and this and this festival. That means it's not just me who can tell you it's good. Other people think so as well.
Right.
People who have to watch films all day think of it as well.
That's right. I love going to film festivals and being a part of this one as well, because again,
we're partial
that
to
community,
this one.
that community idea of building your community and makes everybody stronger, to just come together and celebrate film, but also to meet each other and go bounce ideas off of each other and, find out what other stories are out there that need to be told.
Exactly. And a lot of times, there are people I meet at film festivals and we end up working together later. We find each other on Facebook and stuff like that before the end of the festival, and we support each other when their films do well, and you can see what else they're working on, and then when you're working on something similar, you can bring them in. So it's all about networking, which is also why you need to be nice.
Right, exactly. Well, you know what, can you talk a little bit about this, because this is something I talk to people a lot too, is the whole networking and being nice thing. Is I'm always telling students, you can't treat somebody like they're below or whatever because that could be, you could be talking to a producer who you don't know is on set. You could be talking to the producer's relative who happens to be a background actor for that day.
Exactly.
You could, and it's not to to bow down and be, to be nice just for the sake of being nice, but it's like we're all in this together to make this film happen. So let's work together on it.
Exactly. And you know what? This is another story I tell my students too. Even if the person is the PA or the assistant today, you don't know who that person is going to be.
That's right.
Tomorrow or 2 years from now. So this is a funny story. So while I was working as an intern at the ad agency, my first ever ad agency, one of the things that I had to do, that they gave me to do, was help out with casting. And so they asked me to take pictures of the actors when they signed in, take their picture and write down their information. They gave me this janky camera that kept jamming, and this one lady came in, and I was trying to take the picture. Mind you, I'm fresh out of college, just trying to make a good impression on everybody, and the camera kept jamming, and she was so mean to me, and she was like, "Can't you get this right?" Right? So I took her picture. She went in, right? So there's that. 2 years later, I'm not the intern anymore.
Right.
I'm the producer.
That's right. That's right.
And guess whose picture came across my table?
Yeah.
That lady. Right? You know what I did with that picture?
Right. I can guess. I threw
it away. But even before throwing it away, I told all my producer friends around me, this lady's nasty. Don't work with her. And as far as I know, I haven't seen her in any of the pictures of any of my producer friends since. So that's, I think, you never know who somebody's going to be. And
it's so true.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. And I don't even, what do they say? It's not about what you do, is how you make other people feel that leaves that impression on them. I have no idea how talented of an actor she is or anything like that.
Right.
But I know she wasn't a nice person, and that's not somebody I would want to work with.
Exactly.
Again, great advice for people coming up in the industry.
Exactly. Never know who that other person is.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
is there anything, I know you already asked it, you skipped ahead a little bit, but is there anything else that you wanted to share with us before we say goodbye, Tiffany?
I mean,
any way to reach you, or if anybody's interested in your work, we'll put your website on the, on the video as well. But is there anything else like where people can check
feel
it out?
free to reach me. My website is tiffanyjackman.com. Also, for the projects I'm working on with HOBO Films, you can go to hobofilms.org. That's HOBO, like hobo .org. You can see some of the things that we're working on there. Also, my Instagram is TiffyJack. That's TiffyJack 85.
Awesome.
So
I'll put that up as well.
All those things.
That's so much. Thank you so much, Tiffany, for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us today. It was a real pleasure having you on the show.
It was a pleasure meeting you both, and I would love to talk to you guys anytime.
Great. Thanks.
That's great. Thank you. Right. And also, don't forget to check out all our other great content we have this year at the 2021 Hunter Mountain Film Festival, running from October 22nd through the 24th at huntermountainfilmfestival.com.
Well, that's the show for today. We're so glad that all of you spent some time with us and that you are part of our film and TV community. Stay safe, be well, and keep telling those stories. Hey, Chris, do you know what time it is?
I certainly do, Wayne. It's time to
roll the credits. We'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks so much, Tiffany. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.